Welcome to Kaumudy Global. In one of South Korea's worst ever accident, at least 151 people were killed and over 100 were injured in a stampede at a prominent market in South Korea's capital, Seoul, where a massive crowd had gathered for Halloween. The crowd surge and crush happened in central Seoul, where local reports said as many as 1 lakh people, mostly in their teens and 20s, had gone to celebrate Halloween, clogging the area's narrow alleyways and winding streets. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol declared a period of national mourning on Sunday, saying the government would pay for the medical care of those injured and the funerals of those who died. The crowd surge and crush happened in the capital's popular Itaewon district, where local reports said as many as 100,000 people, mostly in their teens and 20s, had gone to celebrate Halloween. Yoon said in a national address that the government will thoroughly investigate the cause of the incident and make fundamental improvements to ensure the same accident does not occur again in the future. My heart is heavy and it is difficult to contain my sorrow, he added. Wearing green jackets that denote a national emergency, Yoon and other top officials visited the scene of the accident early Sunday and spoke to emergency workers. Earlier, eyewitnesses had described being trapped in a narrow, sloping alleyway, scrambling to get out of the suffocating crowd as people entered up piling on top of one another. Paramedics, quickly overwhelmed by the number of victims, were asking passers-by to administer first aid just on the edge of the chaos. The fire department said at least 151 people, including 19 foreigners, were killed in the stampede, which occurred around 10 p.m. The Ministry of Interior said that 150 more were injured. Of the dead, 97 were female and 54 were male. The high number of casualties was the result of many being trampled during the Halloween event, a fire official told reporters at the scene, adding that the death count could climb. Seoul authorities said they had also received 355 reports on missing people by early Sunday. AFP photos from the scene showed scores of bodies spread on the pavement, covered by bed sheets, and emergency workers dressed in orange vests loading even more bodies on stretchers into ambulances. People were layered on top of others like a tomb. Some were gradually losing their consciousness, while some looked dead by that point. So many victims' faces were pale. I could not catch their pulse or breath, and many of them had a bloody nose. When I tried CPR, I also pumped blood out of their mouths, a doctor said. A Twitter video showed Itaewon shortly before the stampede began. In it, hundreds of young people, many in elaborate Halloween costumes, are seen in a narrow street lined with bars and cafes. The crowd appears in good spirits and calm at first, but then a commotion begins and people start being pushed and pressed into one another. Screams and gasps are heard and a female voice cries out in English, "Shit, shit," followed by, "Oh my God, oh my God." Local television showed scores of ambulances streaming to the Soon Chu-hyang University Hospital, where some of the victims had been taken. President Yoon ordered officials to dispatch first aid teams and to swiftly secure hospital beds for those affected, the presidential office said. In Washington, Seoul's staunch ally, US President Joe Biden, said America stands with South Korea after the tragedy. At the scene, which had been cordoned off by the police and was bathed in the red from hundreds of flashing lights, music continued to play from some bars. This year's Halloween event was the first since the pandemic started in 2020, at which South Koreans have not been mandated to wear face masks outdoors. Eyewitnesses described scenes of panic as people falling like dominoes. Police and firemen were seen trying to revive people who had gone into cardiac arrest amid chaos in narrow streets. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar expressed his condolences over the tragedy, assuring India's solidarity with the grieving nation, saying he was deeply shocked by the loss of young lives. Newly appointed Prime Minister of UK, Rishi Sunak, also took to Twitter to express his grief over the tragic crash. Now the big task is to find out who or what created the commotion that triggered the stampede.